Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and I herald Matt Lactus.
Give me that baby over there.
No.
Now I'm really mad.
Actually, calling you Matt Lactus made it seem like it was Matt with like a lactation issue.
Yeah,
No,
I don't
it's
like that.
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
I mean, Galactus already kind of sounds like that, to be honest.
That's true. He's just kind of like a big cow.
Isn't Galactose like one of the sugars, or am I making something up here?
I don't know. I guess the Earth needs to take a Galactade.
And it is actually, by the way.
Oh, cool.
It's actually milk sugar.
Oh, well, that makes sense in context.
Yeah.
All right. This week on the show, we are going to be taking a look at the newest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to be looking and reviewing The Fantastic Four: First Steps, the last film before Avengers Doomsday. It all set it up. We're ready for Doomsday.
Yep.
Apparently.
Taking the first steps into Doomsday.
Mm-hmm. And then after we talk about this movie for a little bit, we're going to talk about another movie that Matt and I saw just a few days ago. We're going to be talking about the film Roadhouse, the 1989 Patrick Swayze. I don't know how to describe it, but we'll do so here in about 45 minutes.
That's right.
But let's just jump into Fantastic Four, Matt. Let's do it. Let's talk all about this movie. Fantastic Four: The First Steps. Sorry, The Fantastic Four: First Steps. There's I put the in the wrong place.
Yeah, we should get rid of that the. It's cleaner.
Wow, folks, we all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head off into space and come back forever changed.
This car?
Our city, our planet, owe a debt to these intrepid souls. And while we can never repay them, we can certainly celebrate them.
Thank you, Fantastic Four. Thank you.
Thank you, Fantastic Four!
Please welcome the Fantastic Four.
Matt, what is this movie all about?
Forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, the Fantastic Four must defend Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus and his enigmatic herald, Silver Surfer.
This movie was written by Josh Friedman, Eric Pearson, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. Yes, that is 4 people. It was directed by Matt Shackman. It stars Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Evan Moss-Bacharach, and Joseph Quinn. Matt, Fantastic Four. What did you think of it?
I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was very interesting in a number of ways. So just right off the bat, I enjoyed watching it. It was an enjoyable sit. I think one thing that I liked about it is that it just did not feel like an MCU movie. It felt like a movie from the alternative universe of the MCU where we continued to make like different, like instead of ultimately converging with all of the MCU movies feeling basically samey and kind of productized and streamlined so that all the action scenes are made by the same action scene DPs and everything. It felt like it was made by different people. It had a different storytelling sensibility. I think one obvious thing is like it's introducing the heroes, but it's not doing the hero origin story for the heroes. It's doing a bunch of different things. I mean, even the way it's shot, like the color palette, the retrofuturism. I even dare say like this sort of manneredness or the style of the acting feels quite qualitatively different. We don't have any of our MCU quippiness. It just felt totally different, and that was refreshing to me. Aside from the fact that I just enjoyed the movie kind of on its own merits, I definitely think we'll get into some sort of complaining for sure. Because, I think there were some things about it where I'm just like, why did we do it that way? And then there's also just the fact that I don't know if this is like an unpopular opinion or not, actually, but I think the Fantastic Four are stupid. I think they're not very interesting as superheroes. I don't think the Galactus story is very dramatic, and I don't know why we keep telling it over and over. Like, I kind of get why we keep telling the Spider-Man origin story over and over, because that's a really inherently dramatic story that is really easy to like empathize with. And the Galactus story is just so blue laser shooting into the sky in narrative form. Like, it's like, yeah, okay, you're threatening, you're going to eat the Earth. Okay. I don't care. I don't care about the Earth, right? This is the thing that always happens in superhero movies, where it's like, make me care about the stakes. This movie tries to do that. I think reasonable people can disagree over whether it succeeds, but it actually smartly makes us care about the baby and the family that loves the baby rather than the Earth. And I think that's smart. So anyway, That was my long meandering preamble. Scott, what did you think of the movie?
Okay. I just want to say for the record here, you made me do this. I didn't want to do this episode.
That's my fault.
I did not like this movie very much. And I think it's actually the one saving grace of it for me, having to sit here in front of this microphone and now talk about this movie for the next hour, is I think it's interesting in the ways that I did not like it, because it is a movie that I think on paper I should love. Like if you break down the disparate parts of the movie, if you would give me the film summary, if you would tell me everything you just told me about how it looks and how it feels and what the movie is doing and what the movie is interested in talking about, I would tell you, oh, I am going to love that movie. And I really, really didn't. And I think this is really fascinating because, we went, you and me saw this movie together for, I don't know, when's the last time you and I got to actually sit down together and watch a movie? It doesn't happen very often. We were together in New Mexico, and we will talk about that a bit more in a bonus episode of Doof After Dark that's going to be on our Patreon here sometime soon. But we were there, and we were there with our friend Michael, who hates comic book movies and hates the MCU. And he was the one that suggested we see this movie. And I was like, there's no way you're going to like it. And then I was watching the movie and I was like, oh my God, Michael is going to hate this movie because I don't like this movie. And then we walked out of the door of the theater and Michael goes, that was a pretty good movie. And I said, what fucking alternate Earth are we on? That Michael liked this movie and I didn't. And I do think it's really fascinating because this is my opinion. I understand. I am going into this whole conversation saying I understand that my opinion on this thing is the minority. And I completely understand why people like this movie. My biggest problem is in spite of all those disparate elements that you just talked about that are good and interesting and refreshing and fascinating, and I agree with all of them, when taken together as a whole, I found this movie very flat and lifeless, and I did not feel anything that it felt like the movie was trying to make me feel. I think a great comparison point is Superman. Superman is a movie that, I think we both liked pretty much. We had some complaints with the story and some of the ways in which James Gunn told that story. But the one complaint I never had about Superman is the way that movie made me feel. I felt all the emotions during that film, and it was a little bumpy, a little choppy. But man, did I feel it. And this film, I think probably technically more impressive, structurally more impressive than Superman, but I just didn't feel any of it. And I think I would take, I think one side effect of this movie is I really like Superman a lot more now. I really love that movie now, I think. And I don't know, we can get into maybe the whys and the hows of it, but yeah, I'm kind of flabbergasted by my own opinion here, honestly.
I think it would be cool for you and I to do kind of a MCU DC grudge thing where we in the new phase of the MCU and the DC EU, we become really partisan and bitter and hateful toward each other.
I mean, we would get clicks, that's for sure.
That's true. The reason I say that is it's funny because I think the more time that passes, the less shine I have for the new Superman movie. and it's interesting because everything you just said, it's like the emotions often didn't connect for me in that movie, and it's just I'm not even, you're wrong and you're watching movies wrong is not what I'm saying. It's like, it's just interesting how, the dramatic paintbrush and palette can work or not work for different people who generally, I think we generally like similar things, right? So it's always really interesting to me when there's these two, and like I think I definitely felt I think what they were going for with this movie. It's just that if I have a complaint about this movie, it's that they simply weren't going for much in the first place. Like, it's sort of, I'm going to return to what I said a minute ago about it feeling sort of mannered, where it's like the whole first part of the movie is, it reminds you in a way that almost feels intentional about The Incredibles.
Yes.
Now there's
which was in and of itself like just a carbon copy of the Fantastic Four.
Exactly. Like the Incredibles is, has always been the best Fantastic Four movie, an adaptation, and everyone knows this. The Incredibles is a great movie. They do the sort of retro thing. They even begin the movie with the sort of like, old timey radio announcer doing a series of vignettes to catch us up on the timeline, which this movie doesn't do exactly the same way, but it does have a similar feel of like it almost feels like we're watching a news segment about the Fantastic Four, but it's diegetic. But that I actually thought it was a fun way of getting us into the movie. But fun is the word, right? It's not dramatic. It's not gripping you with investment in the characters. It's entertaining. You're having fun. You're smiling. You're like, yeah, this is a nice ride. Like, this is kind of refreshing. But it takes time to get to something that feels dramatic. And like, the dramatic stakes of the movie end up being basically, I almost wonder if you're going to agree with what I'm going to say here, but like, I think the core dramatic stakes of the movie are the relationship between Reed Richards and Sue Storm. That's her.
I think so. Yeah.
And the essentially the threat to their relationship that is posed by his own character flaws intersecting with the burden that he has put upon himself and that the team has taken on, and then that intersecting additionally with the fact that now they've encountered this monster that wants to eat their baby.
Yeah.
And the pressure, so what I like about this is like, that's cool, right? It's like, I don't care about the Earth. I care about the stakes that you have dramatized for me. And what you have done is you have made it clear that like, the reason they need to beat Galactus is to repair their marriage and save their baby in a more immediate sense. I actually kind of agree with you that I think they somewhat fumble the dynamics of how that plays out. Like, there are certain really important scenes where I'm actually just left kind of uncertain. Like, what does Sue Storm feel about what's happening right now? Like, she's mad. Like, why is she mad? Like, I don't always need to be spoon-fed things, but sometimes it's like, okay, but this is kind of the most important dramatic moment of the story, so I do need to understand what this character's feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you said the performances were much different from MCU performances, and I agree with you on that. I think they're different in a very specific kind of way, in which they're kind of bad. Like I like all these actors. I love Pedro Pascal. I really like Vanessa Kirby, Evan Moss-Baccarat, like the Bear, one of my favorite shows. I don't know Joseph Quinn very much. I don't think I watched the things that he was in. I guess I technically watched Gladiator 2. He was one of the guys in that. I think his Johnny Storm is, he was Eddie Munson in Stranger Things. God, I loved him in that. He's terrible in this. Like, I really did not like his Johnny Storm at all. And I thought if I want to find like the weak point of the movie, that just kind of broke the emotional stuff for me. It's like what I'm supposed to be feeling about his character. And like, so here's the thing that I think you are correct. What they did that I appreciate on paper is that we skipped over the origin story. We meet the Fantastic Four 4 years after they've shown up. They're heroes. Everyone loves them. Superman essentially did a similar thing, right? We're not going to do the origin story. Nobody cares about origin stories anymore. We're skipping those. We're moving on to the next phase of whatever. Where I think this movie kind of messes up in my eye is because we skipped that. I feel like I don't know if we did like a great job of actually making you emotionally care about them as people. And they tried to do that, right? There's the moments we introduced to them with the dinner and the pregnancy scene and all these things feel like this is the scene where I'm supposed to now be invested in Sue and Reed's relationship, but like I didn't feel that. And like I understand that this is like a bullshit critique because like I'm not actually making an argument. I'm just saying, yes, I think the movie was trying to do X, Y, and Z, but that did not work on me. But like I'm just being honest to how I feel. Like I agree with you that sometimes there's moments where I'm like, what is that look on Sue's face? What is Reed thinking here? Why are they doing that? And it's just like it like put me almost at arm's length to these characters sometimes, where I just like intellectually understand what's going on here. I don't emotionally respond to it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I for what it's worth, my perspective is more to blame the script and less to blame the actors, because I do just think
fair.
It's unclear. It's like it's narratively unclear, like why. We don't. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, here's the thing I love about the movie. Actually, is this is a movie in which the one of the central conflicts of the story is a trolley problem, right? Mm-hmm. Is they go to Galactus and Galactus says, I'm going to kill everyone on your planet unless you sacrifice your child to me. And then I will save everyone on the planet, but your child will die. That's a trolley problem. And Sue just goes, no.
Yeah.
Fuck that, actually, which is my exact reaction to any kind of intellectual trolley problem. But Reed Richards is an intellectual. And so when he sees a trolley problem, he goes, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
And actually maybe I've actually gotten him at. The reason I did not like this movie is because I was having PTSD flashbacks to our We've Got Worm episode message boards when people were yelling at me about rejecting the idea of trolley problems. So I was Sue and our commenters were Reed, or just the world. They were Galactus.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually do appreciate that the central conflict here is that Sue Storm looks at a trolley problem and says, absolutely not. I will find the hidden third option because this is a ridiculous choice you put in front of me. And Reed Richards, as someone who's very, very intelligent, even if only for a fraction of a minute, takes that problem at its face. And that causes friction between the two of them, because of course it would.
Yeah,
I like that stuff. Again, intellectually, I like that stuff. I think it's smart. It's interesting. It is a great line of conflict, and ultimately, the resolution of how they beat the bad guy is kind of a combination of their two philosophies. Mm-hmm. That we're going to need to risk the baby like a little bit, just a little bit, not sacrifice them, but risk them. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I like how you laid that out. Actually, there are certain things that like I'm glad we didn't do. Like it feels at one point in the movie like we're setting up a thing where it's like Reed somewhat stupidly tells the entire world about the ultimatum that Galactus offered them.
Yeah, bad call, buddy. Really, really bad call.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those moments where you're like, okay, that was stupid, but also it's a great character moment in the sense that it tells you who this guy is. Like he's a guy who he's like such an earnest and honest and like just kind of open-hearted. Like he takes his role as like, I am the smartest man on earth and I am responsible for protecting the earth. And so that's what I'm going to do. He just takes it so earnestly that it's like it doesn't even occur to him that he should lie to everyone.
Yeah.
which is a cool, like, while it is like not strategic, it's a great character moment. And then what we don't do is we don't have the thing where like a huge part of the movie is like, oh, now everyone hates the Fantastic Four, and that's now we're gonna spend 30 minutes on like the PR of it. Like that feels like a thing that a lot of other sort of superhero movies would do. Superman, sorry, where we get bogged down in like the fact that the writers really care about the media, and thus we're going to talk about the media for a long time. Like it's beginning to become a pet peeve with me how many of these recent movies are like this, and I'm glad we didn't do that. I mean, we like for like 5 minutes maybe we sort of have the public is like, maybe you should consider giving up the baby, and then just literally Sue Storm goes and talks to them, and they're like, you're right, and then it never comes up again, and then.
Yeah, but isn't that like but isn't that right? Isn't that a little ridiculous too?
So
that the resolution of this conflict that the movie just introduced to us is, oh, what if she just gives a speech that says, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay," and they're just like, "Oh, okay."
So, I mean, realistically, yes. But I think one thing the movie does worked on me. I was going to say like successfully, but it's like I don't think this worked on you, but it worked on me. Is like it sort of transports you into the world of the movie, where in the world of the movie, the Fantastic Four are. I mean, we don't even really have an analogy for it. It's sort of like how Superman is sometimes portrayed in certain Superman stories, where it's like. So, an almost religious figure where it's like don't worry, the Fantastic Four will handle it because they have Reed Richards, the smartest man in the world. He can solve any problem, and they have they have the Thing who's going to clobber any problem, and they have like the public actually in the movie is portrayed as having a to our eyes naive, but in the world of the movie, just very like heartfelt hope, like a very pure hope and trust and faith in the Fantastic Four. It's like in this world, there are these superheroes and they're so good and they always win. And for a second there, we felt kind of scared because you told us that a planet-eating monster was coming to kill us and that they wanted your baby, and we kind of let ourselves go for a second and suggested that maybe you should give up the baby. But then you just reminded us, hey, we're the Fantastic Four. We'll figure it out. And then they do. So like within the world, like that to me is kind of the world of the movie. And I think one part of, I don't want to put words in your mouth certainly, but like one part of the sort of disconnect is like, if that scene happened in Iron Man 3, then it would feel incredibly clashing and dissonant and nonsensical, and like because in those movies, the world is basically just our world, and people are basically just people, and but this movie is sort of doing a different thing. So
I mean, the idea that the entire Earth would turn off their lights at 8 p.m. to conserve electricity is like the biggest joke in the world. Like that would never happen. And by the way, that's not a complaint about the movie. Like I think you're right that this exists, that the alternate world of the multiverse that this exists in, the Fantastic Four are so beloved and so inspiring that when the Fantastic Four say to all peoples and governments of the earth, we need to work together on this, put aside your differences, build by teleporters, and also turn your lights off at 8, everyone just listens. There's not even a question of it. Like everyone listens. I like that. I don't mind that like the movie is not about the people angrily demanding she pull the lever on the trolley. I just like why introduce it if you're just going to immediately bat it away again? Like I guess my complaint is that if we introduce this conflict in a speech and then immediately resolve this conflict in a speech 5 minutes later, what were we doing with it?
Well, I mean, I feel a couple of ways about this because I think ultimately the crux of the drama is meant to be a conflict between Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Why is she Sue Storm? Why isn't she Sue Richards? Anyway,
she didn't take his name, man.
Like,
it's
okay,
the 21st
it's fine.
century in an alternate universe that takes place in the 50s.
That's right.
Just let it happen.
I was just curious. So like it's supposed to be between them. Now, that's why it would make more sense if they just didn't tell the public and then it would just stay between them. The moment when they told the public, I think it was a sort of weird hiccup where it's like, okay, you created a problem that you now need to solve, and then you solve the problem, and then we're back on track. When it probably, I agree, would have been cleaner if he had simply not told them, or if they had said, you can get away with this really easily by just not having that like press conference scene. Although I think on the other hand though, like it's kind of tricky. Like I can see the problem because the press conference scene is one of the more dramatic moments where we're seeing Reed kind of at a loss, where he's like, I actually think he's an interesting character. Like normally this archetype is not interesting to me, but I think something about the way Pedro Pascal plays him was interesting to me, where he's like, he feels this enormous sense of responsibility, and he knows that like, if I can't do it, no one can. And that means I literally like, I have to solve the problem, but I don't know how to. I have no idea how we're going to get out of this. And so he's stuck, you can see him like on live television in front of everyone being like, I'm gonna get you out of this, even though he has no idea how he's going to. And that worked on me. That was kind of cool. That was one of the things that did.
I like that scene. I do. I think you're right that is, I don't feel as strongly about Pedro Pascal's Reed as you do. But I do think that is one of his better, if not best scenes, where he's allowed to kind of flex a little bit. And
because I was just going to say, like, I think maybe you're like me, where this is just an archetype that is usually an annoying archetype. So like there's
just not too many places to go with it, because it's like, he is the smartest man in the world whose intelligence is actually a burden, because it places on him such great responsibility. But then also, like, in order for the movie to work, he does have to actually solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately, like, the resolution of that character's arc is, okay, well, I figured it out. And then you're like, oh, okay. I don't think this movie does quite exactly that. I think, first of all, his plan fails. And then they need to come up with a new plan. And a lot of that is Sue's. I mean, like, this is a movie about parenthood, right? And it is a movie about two parents with very different styles, very different personalities, finding a way to mesh their different personalities together in order to raise a child, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so it is, at the end, it is both Reed's intellectual practicality and Sue's, like, to for lack of a better phrase, it is Reed's male fatherness and Sue's female motherness, to break this down to very, very standard cultural stereotypes, like that save the day, essentially. Like, she literally lifts the bus to save her child. Okay, not literally, but we've turned the mother lifting a car to save her child into mother pushing a giant man into a hole to save her kid.
Right. And just to start a related fight with you, I actually did like the stuff that we did with Johnny Storm, and I'm going to add him into your picture you're drawing here, because really what you're seeing, totally in line with what you're saying, is like this family, semi-found family, but also real family, is having to reconfigure itself due to the news that there's going to be a baby. and like they're all happy that there's going to be a baby. All four of them are thrilled that there's going to be a baby, but there's a necessary shifting of priorities, of sort of perspectives on things. And so Johnny Storm, he's going to be an uncle, and he's kind of figuring out what that means to him. And it's like kind of means he's going to be sidelined a bit, but also it's a role where he has the potential to kind of be solving other problems and adding value in places where the mom and dad can't afford to, because their attention is more immediately occupied with the immediate struggles of the baby. And so that's why I like the fact that like he's got this side plot where he's kind of like charmingly smitten by the Silver Surfer, which is mainly played off as a joke, but it's fine. I enjoy it. And then he's trying to like crack her language, and then he's successfully really plot wise, I don't think they succeed unless he manages to kind of get inside Silver Surfer's head and kind of turn her to their side at the end there, right? And so that it gives him something to do. He's kind of charming. He's kind of fun.
I don't find him charming or fun. I like
so interesting.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think he feels so wooden to me. And like there were times I was watching this movie where I was like, is this a fake human being? Is this like I don't believe anything he's doing right now.
Is this a man portraying another man?
No, that's not what I mean.
I know.
But yeah, kind of actually. Like I found him so like, and I'm like, let me be clear here. I think this Fantastic Four movie is better than every other Fantastic Four movie that's ever been made. So like, I just want to level set. Like, just because I didn't like this movie doesn't mean I don't think it has qualities and is not better than other movies. But like, let's make the comparison then. Let's make the comparison to the first Fantastic movie with Chris. Which Chris is that again? I get my Chris's confused.
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, who is like doing all the things that you would expect a character named Johnny Storm to do, but doing them in a way that just, it felt like a real person doing those things to me. Whereas this just didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're going to talk me out of thinking that he's charming, but like, yeah, I mean, Chris Evans just is way more charismatic than this actor. That's just a fact. Yeah. Like this is the Achilles heel or the, you know, the lodestone around the neck of the ongoing MCU is that Patrick, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are the charismatic leading men of their generation. And there aren't just like drop-in replacements for those guys.
Yeah, and they're desperately searching for them.
Yeah,
and I don't think any of the characters in this movie are that. Like, even if I could lean towards your opinion on Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, I don't think he's the center of this thing. I don't think he could ever be that.
Well, and I agree, and I was gonna make this comparison myself that Tony Stark is an adjacent archetype to Reed Richards because he's the super genius who solves problems with his intelligence. Now, there's obviously all kinds of distinctions between those two characters. One of them being that Tony Stark is kind of a devil may care, sarcastic, quippy asshole, and this is just a sort of diametrically opposed character in so many ways. But
sure,
but like just in terms of the, I don't know, the energy of the character and their ability to like drive, like the locus of control always feels like it's in Tony's grasp, even when he's, you know, the desperate underdog in the situation. Like he's the hero, whereas Reed Richards, I think, you know, you called him intellectual a few times. It's like, yeah, he's always in his head. I think it's no, you know, coincidence that despite the fact that he literally has superpowers, he's Mr. Stretch Man. He uses those for like 5 seconds, and then he gets like
he almost
caught,
never uses them,
and just horribly maimed like immediately.
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, that's not his forte. It's incidental that he has superpowers.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Stark would have absolutely destroyed that press conference. Like he would have killed it, and he would have zero idea how they're going to get out of this, just like Reed, but he would have been able to navigate that particular situation better. And that, like, it's not like, that's not to say I want Reed Richards to be a Tony Stark character. No, I don't need all characters to be the same. But like, I mean, one of the things I kept thinking about in this movie was the fact that one of the things I do appreciate about the movie is it's so contained. This is not a movie that you have any homework you need to do going into it. It's not a movie that really, like, connects to anything else in any real way. I mean, the most amount of connection it does at the very end of the movie is the Doctor Doom cameo in the post-credit scene. But even that only connects to the wider MCU because we know the next film is named Doomsday, right? Like, that could just be in our old days of making movies that are just movies. That could just be a teaser for the sequel to Fantastic Four. It doesn't have to be a larger MCU thing, but of course it is. And the thing I could not stop thinking about was, like, the one thing that I really appreciate about this movie is a thing that this fucking series is about to completely annihilate, because we're going to rip these people out of this world and just chuck them headlong into the larger MCU. And I just could not imagine a thing I want less than that. I mean, for these characters that I just told you, I don't really like that much, and I don't think this movie really works. But, like, the one thing that makes it work less is plucking these people out of this world and dropping them into standard MCU film. Like, God, no fucking way.
Yeah, I admit that I don't understand what the plan is, because here's what I don't think the plan is, but what maybe should have been the plan is, like, we do a bunch of Marvel stories that are explicitly set in different multiverse universes. Like, we have our Fantastic Four movie set in the Fantastic Four world. There's no X-Men here. There's no Avengers here. Then over here on this movie, we're going to have an X-Men movie. It's set in an X-Men universe. It can have a totally different tone. It can be totally different. I don't want to go over the place, but, like, I was going to say, like, people, I've heard people talking about making a movie that has the new Superman in the Matt Reeves Batman in the same movie.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
That's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. If they do that, what will necessarily happen is you cheapen both of those characters, and you make their worlds and the movies they came from instantly make no sense.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you take interesting, like, artistic independent movies, and then you insist that they play in the same world together. That's why the MCU had to become samey, is because all the movies they knew they all had to vector together and culminate in the same, all in one movie. So, you play a little bit around the edges. You can have your more comedic Thor movies, and you can have your more gritty Captain America movies or whatever. But, like, ultimately, it didn't feel too horribly clashing. With I think they figured it out reasonably well. But, like, this would feel really bad to, like, you. I mean, I just agree with you. It makes me more annoyed the more I think about the fact that this isn't going to be allowed to just be a standalone Fantastic Four movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, I mean, they obviously, like, this was a very conscious, very aware, intentional shift away from what the MCU is, right? Like, these people are smart. They know what audiences have and have not been reacting to. I think you and I are in the same boat as the majority of the people on this stuff, that post Endgame, we found it very difficult to care about much of any of this stuff. I just watched Captain America: Brave New World, by the way, because it hit Disney Plus. Just terrible. It's really, really bad. And so they are intentionally kind of seeking out new things, and this was definitely a conscious effort to make something that looks different. And I do love the retro futurism. I really like the look of the movie. The mix, it makes it seem like this other world that we barely get a glimpse of. We have this whole subterranea world that exists in this place, with the Mole Man, who I also loved. But yeah, it's just like, there is that feeling in the back of your mind the entire time that you're like, oh, but they can't stay here. They need to go fight Doomsday with with Thor.
Wolverine and Thor. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, here's the honest thing. Like, this in my mind, I was excited about the movie and I was looking forward to this movie because I have been feeling for a while like I was increasingly becoming out on the entire experiment that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I just wasn't really into these movies anymore. And like, I don't think that is to say like I'm not into the comic book movie thing anymore, because I did quite enjoy Superman, and I did, and that is a movie I had my complications with, but ultimately enjoyed and still enjoy. And in fact, every day enjoy a little bit more when I think about it. So I was like, it's just like the MCU formula that's gotten stale to me. This absolutely breaks that formula. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100% there. And so it is so disappointing to me that the break of the formula leaves me feeling so hollow and indifferent. And like, it's like the Superman thing isn't a fair comparison for me, because Superman as a character, I have a lot of love for. Yeah. I care about that character greatly. I'm with you. I don't really give a shit about the Fantastic Four. There's a lot of people out there that love Fantastic Four. There's a lot of reviews out there I saw read that finally they made an actual Fantastic Four movie that captures like what the Fantastic Four are. And I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't read those comics. I don't care about them as superheroes. And so I had no kind of invested idea in these characters coming into this movie. And maybe that's why I felt so cold and distanced from it. But like at the same time, like I also didn't care about any of the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy either, right? I didn't know who those people are. I didn't care about them. And the movie succeeded in making me. And it just didn't for this movie. And I don't think I've done a good job of explaining why. Because I don't fully understand myself. I mean, that was like the experience of talking with you and Michael about this movie after we walked out of it was really hard for me, because like you guys were listing all the things that you liked. And I was like, yeah, no, I like that too. Yeah, no, I like that too. I like that too. Okay, but did you like the movie? No. Yeah. And like, I felt so weird about it, and I still feel kind of weird about it. Because I just like for whatever reason in its culmination in my brain, it ends up feeling empty despite liking those pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to fix that for you. I just think sometimes that happens. That happens with me fairly often, where I can literally just, and this is kind of this is just true, is like I can just like have a headache when watching a movie and that makes me not like the movie. And I'm even aware of that fact. I'm pretty sure that I'm incapable of having fun right now. Like I'm incapable of enjoying anything right now. So of course I don't like this movie, but that doesn't make me suddenly like the movie or make me like apologize for the movie, for the things that aren't working for me. And then, I'm not, it just is that way. I'm not even saying like, oh, you must have just been a bad mood when you watched the movie, because it's I think likely that this is just sort of your like modal reaction to the movie. But it's just hard to nail down exactly why we have why things work or don't work, and that's fine. That's fine. I think if anything, in my case, I almost wish it were more weird. Like the thing about the Fantastic Four, I don't really know much about the Fantastic Four, honestly, but in my sense of things, which could be inaccurate, the Fantastic Four come from like an era of comics where like there was less of a clean line between sci-fi and superheroes. Like in our current marketing environment, those are two very different things. Like a movie is either going to be a sci-fi movie or it's going to be a superhero movie. And back then, I my feeling is that the idea is that the Fantastic Four were basically a sci-fi premise that happened to be superheroes rather than a superhero premise that happened to be sci-fi. And I almost wish the movie was more of an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation that happened to be played by characters with minor superpowers, and more heavy on the character, debates and dramatic cruxes of decision, and less on the action, less on the the need to keep the need to keep shiny objects moving around constantly. Like it's not that I disliked the action. I actually thought it was good. I did think it was good.
I thought it was okay. I think the interesting thing to me is, and I've never read the comics, so comic readers, please excuse me, but like, I've just never thought the powers of these four people mesh well. So like, using them cooperatively, like, I don't know, like, I guess Human Torch carries the thing, and that's cool. And then he says it's clobbering time.
Yeah. Like it almost it feels downright funny when you really step back from it, because if you just imagine, like, in a vacuum, imagine there's no prior art, there's no Fantastic Four, you're just making a movie, and then you like send the script off to someone, their reaction would be like, okay, interesting story, why did you give them superpowers? like it's just irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of have always felt, especially Reed Richards, it's like being stretchy just seems like
it is definitely almost an afterthought in this movie. His stretchiness, we barely see it. I do want to focus on something you said, because I was thinking about saying this earlier, and then I started doubting myself. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go for broke, whatever.
Sweet.
I think this is I think you're absolutely right that this is a departure from the MCU standard formula. I think it is a departure in the safest way possible, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That like they broke with formula, they did something different, they did something new for the MCU, but they told what I think like a pretty standard story. It just feels very calculated and safe to me in some ways.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, it is just, one of their standard repertoire of stories. I don't know. I mean, this is always a weird thing where I don't know how to play this. It's like, you've been given a hand to play, and the hand is like 70 years or whatever of comic book history, and how are you going to turn that into movies? And I think the MCU very like often, not always, does a really good job of just kind of picking and choosing and making something that is good. Like Iron Man 1, it's like, does Iron Man 1 adhere strictly to the canonical origin story of Iron Man? I don't know, idea. Honestly, but I suspect not, right?
Yeah.
Especially since the movie had no shooting script. So I mentioned that to say, okay, we're doing the Fantastic Four. We kind of have to do Galactus. And that's where, like, I might step into the room.
Do we?
And be like, do we? Like, does anyone care about Galactus? Are there any other better Fantastic Four stories? Or better yet, can we just kind of do something different that tell a story that we want to tell? And that doesn't end up happening, sort of obviously, right? Because then it's like, why are we doing this at all then if we're not even going to use the comic books? So I
don't know. That's interesting. I don't know. Like I mean, like, again, maybe another point against this movie before I even stepped in the door was that I just don't like you. I don't really particularly care about Galactus, and I mean, they basically just said, okay, we want to tell a story about family and children, and so we need some bad thing to want to disrupt the family, and it's like, okay, Galactus, and he wants the kid. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. So that's Galactus. He's gonna want to eat the kid or the world. Okay.
Yeah.
I just like really didn't care. I also think like the Silver Surfer character did not work on me at all. Like I agree with you. Like I think part of this is part of my indifference to Johnny Storm. But
yeah, well,
I didn't find any of that compelling. I mean, what we're trying to do here is you're trying to draw the connection, the motherhood connection with Vanessa Kirby and Julia Garner, who plays the Silver Surfer, right? Like
Right.
this is what finally gets in her head and wins her over, is this connection of motherhood and family, and what causes her to, at the very last minute, surf her boss into a hole. It didn't work. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of an interesting dialogue here, because it's like, did it work for me, or do I just not think that it particularly mattered, so that I mean,
if the movie functions for you without it, then the movie functions, right? I mean, like, we haven't talked about Ben Grimm at all yet, and I think there's a reason for that. That the movie barely uses him, and not very well, in my opinion. But like, even if you agreed with that, the movie worked for you regardless. So it's not something that you would be bothered by.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I keep thinking about Star Trek, honestly, because I feel like the notion of having there be like a team of 4 superheroes, and they're like scientists, and they go in spaceships and solve problems. I'm like, yeah, so this is kind of like, if you just saw Star Trek the motion picture and you had never seen any other Star Trek, you would be like, I don't know what they were doing with that engineer Scotty character. Like, I guess they give him some stuff to do, and he's kind of a wacky guy, and he's got that accent, but it just all seems kind of like a gimmick, and it doesn't really work for me. And it's like, okay, there's a context here. The context is, that's Scotty. No, you know who Scotty is, so like that, it's just a handicap they incur by having to have all 4 characters, and then not necessarily having something to do with all 4 characters.
No, this is a fantastic point. Because Star Trek the motion picture just feels like an episode of Star Trek that is 2 hours long, right? Yeah. This movie was directed by a man who makes television. Matt Shakman is a TV director. He did, by the way, WandaVision, which we both really liked. He directed episodes of Game of Thrones. He directed episodes of It's Always Sunny. He directed episodes of The Boys. Like, this is a guy who is like a TV director. That's what he does. And this is like not his first, but this is one of his first like big pictures. The writers of this story are a bunch of TV writers. They are. And so like there is an argument to be made here that this is in essence just an episode of the Fantastic Four. This is just like, we talked about Superman being a Saturday morning cartoon a lot. This is just an episode of the continuing adventures of the Fantastic Four. And in this episode of the continuing adventures of the Fantastic Four, we are focusing on Reed and Sue. They are the primary characters of today's episode. Tomorrow's episode will be Ben Grimm and his struggle with his rocky skin. But that's not really what we're doing in this episode. And there's a little bit of it there, right? Like, Natasha Lyonne is in this movie. I have to assume that they cut some scenes. Because why they would bring Natasha Lyonne into this movie to be the clear setup love interest for Ben that doesn't really ever go anywhere. I don't know. I refuse to believe there weren't cutscenes from this movie, but yeah, I mean, from that frame, I think that makes total sense. That like, if you look at it as TV, it functions that way. Certainly,
the beginning, we called it like a newsreel about the Fantastic Four. It does have that feeling of like, we're catching you up to the ongoing adventures of the Fantastic Four, which you're jumping into the middle of season 3 of the Fantastic Four. And I think subliminally, like, it's not like I had all of this articulated in my mind verbally, but subliminally and vibes wise, I understood, like, we're this is just another Tuesday for these guys. And I was kind of down for that, because it was, one of the advantages of not doing the superhero origin story is that you're able to just have it be like, and then this is another thing that they did, and it wasn't like, the most dire and character defining thing that ever happened to them. It did have its own stakes, and it had its own drama to it, but it lets you go other places with those characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like the movie better under this framing. Of course, the thing I will say is that the reason that function in Star Trek: The Motion Picture is because you did have 3 seasons of television that you've watched in order to learn and grow and appreciate these characters, and we're just doing this like slice of. I mean, this is the thing that always frustrated me about comic books, was this idea that I could never truly find the beginning, and at any given moment I'm going to pick up an episode and just have to like catch up on all the characters. And I think that is what this movie, more than any of the MCU, is operating on. That central idea that this is just the newest issue of the Fantastic Four. Ultimately did not love it, but I could definitely appreciate it, right? And it does break my heart a little bit that now these guys are going to have to fucking go fight Robert Downey Jr. with Ant-Man and all the X-Men. And I just, every time I think of that stupid Doctor Doom presentation where they just slowly panned the camera across 1,000 directors' chairs with actors' names on it, I just get so sad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this I don't want this to devolve into another discussion of like the film business, but I just do think it's very funny that their reaction to learning that people aren't willing to endlessly go watch every single MCU movie they put out, and that every superhero movie is probably not going to make $1 billion from now on, is to say, let's get so many actors that the movies can't possibly be made cheaply. And make sure that every movie costs $500 million to make going forward. Yeah. It's like, no, stop doing that. Stop it. I
am actually like flabbergasted at how they're going to make this movie work at all, because it just seems like there's so much they have to do in the span of what I'm guessing is going to be 3.5 hours. I don't know how it functions. I mean, let's be clear here. I think the X-Men characters are going to be killed like almost immediately. I do not think Patrick Stewart's going to be in this movie very long. I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very uncertain, like what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
Like what just on any level. Are we using magic? Are we gonna? How much of the pre-existing MCU are we even trying to preserve? Like, is Brie Larson going to show up as? I
think so. I don't know.
Well, it's like, on the one hand, I assume so, but on the other hand, like, I get this sense that they're kind of trying to get a clean slate, and I think it's a very bad move to say like the way we're going to do a clean slate is we're going to have a movie that cleans the slate. It's like, no, you should just clean the slate and then you start it with the clean slate.
Yeah,
there's like it's like the only reason Deadpool 3 or whichever one was the last Deadpool functioned was because it was funny. Like, you imagine trying to make a movie with that much like meta multiverse. There are no actual stakes because there's no such thing as death because we're in a multiverse and there's 50,000 different Deadpools. That like that's what you end up with when you do a multiverse story.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to make that a comedy. And that's why it's a Deadpool movie. But like, that's what you're talking about doing when you're talking about making it a multiverse story. I mean, I just think they've sort of poisoned their franchise the moment they introduced the multiverse stuff, is my honest opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I guess I'll watch it, but I have my foot halfway out the door with this shit now. The fact that like, I think I would feel much differently if I came out of this movie being like, fuck yeah, they're back, baby. And I just don't really feel that way. So it's like, am I going to continue to invest my time and money and emotions into this thing? I don't know, probably a little bit. Like, there's a new Spider-Man movie coming out before Doomsday, technically. I don't know how much that's going to set up for Doomsday. I hope not at all, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I guess I'll see that one because I did like that last Spider-Man movie a whole lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, there's just one funny thing about Marvel is just like I forget about the existence of Spider-Man when I'm going on these rants, and I'm like,
Well, because he's like technically not Marvel, like he is and he isn't, right? Those are Sony produced, and like Marvel makes the movies, but Sony produces them, and they do slide into the MCU, but like they're the edges, they're the edge piece.
Yeah, well, and Spider-Man, I think, is sort of an edge character where like Spider-Man has his own personal rogues gallery and his own, he's not a mutant, he's not an Avenger, he's Spider-Man, right? And I mentioned this literally just because it's like there's so much gold. Marvel has so much gold, and then they have so much crap, and they, for some reason, they make a bunch of crap movies instead of just not making those, and they could just make the gold movies, and everybody would love them, and they would have a much better reputation. I understand that they can't do that because like they have to make money and etc.
So just so we're on the same page here, your suggestion to Disney and Marvel is make good movies.
My suggestion is as always, make good movies. Yes.
Okay.
And let me corollary, don't make bad movies.
Okay.
Which is a different thing actually, because if you have a bad movie on your hands, you can just not make it and save that money and maybe use that money for something else later. Yeah, but here's the thing. They can't actually do that. Like, I'm not naive. They can't actually do that because in order to keep the machine running, that is their business, they have to keep making movies. And if they don't have the right script and actors and everything, they just have to make the movie that they have.
Yeah.
And then it sucks. And everybody hates it. But
sure. Uh-huh. With that in mind, this movie's not doing great.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I am in the minority of the people that have seen this movie, most people seem to like it. I think what we're seeing here is a general lack of interest in these movies. So opening weekend did very well. It did 117 million, which I think was comparable to Superman. I want to look up what Superman's amount was before I say for sure, but let's see. Opening weekend. Superman made 125 million, so a little bit more, but close enough. 117 to 125. But in its second week, it dropped 67% week to week. So just so people understand, if you don't understand like the economics of movies make the majority of their money in their first weekend and their first week. This has always been true. But if a movie is going to get up there money wise and represent staying power, the drop that we want to see from the first week to the second week is 50%, right? If it's like a 40% drop, that's very good. If it's a 50% drop, that's about average. If you start getting in 60 to 70%, that is bad. That is bad. By comparison, Superman dropped 53% from week 1 to week 2. And so this is an additional 15% on top of that drop, which is pretty rough, which indicates that this movie is not going to hit I think $1 billion was always out of the realm of possibility for this movie. I don't think they were even expecting that, but I think they were hoping for like 800,000 worldwide. Doesn't seem like it's going to hit that. And I think, again, I think this is a really interesting thing that's happening because it is not because the movie is poorly reviewed, right? The movie is very well reviewed. The audience reaction to the movie is very good. I think what we're seeing here is we're seeing that the kind of the diehard fan that is going to come out the weekend the movie comes out is still very much there for Marvel, especially for something new and exciting like this. But the casual movie-going audience has checked out. And I think that's just the case now. That the reason Marvel succeeded and the reason movies like freaking Captain Marvel could make $1 billion, which just sounds ludicrous to us this day and age, that a completely unknown character like this in a movie that was fine could make $1 billion. Those days are so far gone. because in order for a movie to make $1 billion, it has to capture the interest of a wide array of people. And I think 117 opening weekend and then a 67% drop to me says the regular Joe doesn't give a shit anymore.
I think that's probably right. I mean, I think there's multiple causes, right? I think it is just true that most people don't care about the Fantastic Four. Like
yeah, I think that's true.
Captain Marvel.
But did they care about Captain Marvel?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, personal anecdote here is like if you have daughters, you're like, okay, they marketed the shit out of that movie. They marketed that movie as like, basically women empowerment. And so it's like, obviously I'm going to take my kids to see it. And it's marketed as sort of a 4-quadrant movie, right? Like they didn't market this movie. They certainly didn't pose it as a proper 4-quadrant.
I think I saw it everywhere.
I don't know if they marketed it well. Like, this is another thing where it's like everything is all tangled up, because sometimes they market things, but it's like you can only market, like, it's just not very marketable is maybe another way of putting it. Like, it is just not an intrinsically appealing subject matter in the same way that Captain Marvel is. So, and also everyone knows that the Fantastic Four movies always suck, right? Like
Sure.
They've tried repeatedly, and at a certain point you just have to say, maybe this is just not a story that works on film. And I think a lot of people are like, I'm not going to go see the third time that they try to do this. Whereas, anyway.
So do you think that the people will show up for the Avengers? Like, do you think the Avengers still carries with it enough goodwill that despite the various side projects, that people see the Avengers in movie theaters and they say, that's an event. We have to be part of that. We have to go. I will be there. I'm going to make $1.5 billion.
I mean, probably yes. And that will probably remain true until they make an Avengers movie or two that are actually just bad. And I can imagine people ultimately turning on it. But I think what you just said about it being an event, like, that's a specific sort of, concept in people's minds where it's like, okay, I believe that everybody is going to go see this. So that means I have to go see it. So I'm not, the one weirdo who didn't go see it.
Sure.
That's one thing they kind of have going for them, and it's up to them not to kill it.
Sure. Yeah. I probably agree with you. I think the industry now lives and dies on these events, and that is definitely going to be an event. So
yeah,
in a way that I don't think a Fantastic Four movie ever could be.
If only they were capable of making a movie for less than $500 million.
Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. That's RDJ's fee alone.
Right. Yeah,
I like to think that in the end credits scene where we see Dr. Doom and don't ever actually see his face, I like to think Robert Downey Jr. demanded that was him.
Yeah.
So he could get residuals on the film.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. It would be a smart business move.
He's made so much fucking money off of these movies.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was the Fantastic Four First Steps. Can't wait to see all them again in the Avengers Tower arguing
with Rogue.
I don't know.
With
we haven't seen Thunderbolts, who are apparently the new Avengers. So maybe with
Channing Tatum playing Gambit.
No, he's gonna die. Please let him die. Didn't he die in the fucking Deadpool movie?
Yes, but multiverse.
Well, of course. There's infinite universes. I forgot.
Yeah.
Bring back Tom Hiddleston. Bring back Chris Evans. Bring them all back.
Yeah.
They went off and they tried to do interesting original movies, and the first one didn't work. And then he did Oppenheimer and won an Academy Award, but he had already signed the Marvel contract. So now he's just going to do these forever.
Yeah. Iron Man was like 17 years ago, but yeah, we need to keep having that happen over and over.
Keep doing them because we love Robert Downey Jr. and he's perhaps the core of the whole fucking thing. And the second they killed him off, none of the movies were good anymore. So we've got to bring him back in any way we can.
And that'll solve the problem.
And it will do it. It will do it.
Yeah.
You'll see. You'll all see.
Yep.
I'm so tired.
That's why it's good to never end things.
Can we talk about something that ended though, Matt? Can we wrap up the podcast by talking about one thing that has ended?
Yeah.
And that is the 1980s. And how that's makes me sad every single day. So one of the things that Matt and Michael and I did while we were in the great state of New Mexico, we will talk in more detail about this on our Patreon. Check it out, patreon.com/doofmedia. We went to a repertory screening at a theater in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that is owned by Mr. George R. R. Martin, because we were at his bookstore and his theater's right next door, and we said, let's go see a movie there. And we originally were going to go see the film Moon, which is a movie I quite love.
Me too.
Actually. And you like it too. And we were all excited to see Sam Rockwell and Sam Rockwell and the Moon. Yeah. But Michael, being Michael, did not really want to see that movie.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing Moon, we saw a movie that he had never seen and knew nothing about, but was willing to take a risk on it. And that is the 1989 film Roadhouse. We are not talking about the Jake Gyllenhaal remake they just made last year. We're talking about the OG Roadhouse, starring Patrick Swayze. And Matt, they used to make movies.
It was really something.
It was. So, okay, if you don't know, if you've never seen Roadhouse, this is a film about a bouncer played by Patrick Swayze. His name is Dalton. IMDb says his name is James Dalton, but I don't think he ever said anything but Dalton.
Nope.
During the entire movie.
Certainly not.
And he is like one of the best bouncers in the world. And he is hired by a man to come to his bar that's all rowdy and people getting in fights and throwing stuff. And he's hired to come there and fix the bar. And he gets himself embroiled in a town in which an evil bad guy named Brad Wesley has been leeching the town of its money for years and stealing from people. And well, Dalton doesn't quite like that. And so he decides to do something about it. And it is the most absurd movie that has ever been created. It is so 80s. It's got sex. It's got violence. It's got so many breasts, so many boobs everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's also just like a really fucking great time at the movies.
It is. It's very fun. It very skillfully rides this line between being over the top absurd and taking itself seriously. Like it's not so over the top as to be like, okay, this is just a stupid bad movie. But it definitely does exist in like a John Wick-esque alternate world where there is a society of bouncers and bouncers have reputations, across state lines as being legendary bouncers. And if
you walk into a bar in America, the bouncer in that bar has heard of Dalton and the magic he has done.
Yeah. And the character himself is, I forget where I read this, but somebody was comparing this movie to a Western. Oh, it was Ebert, right?
It was Ebert's review, yeah.
Ebert was comparing it to a Western and pointing out that, like, I don't know, I guess it does have a lot of Western tropes to it, but it takes place in the 80s, and the character is basically your like man with no name cowboy archetype, except he's just a bouncer and he just likes to It's a bunch, guys. But he's also sort of like a Zen warrior monk poet philosopher.
Yeah.
It's great.
He went to NYU and got a degree in philosophy and then became a bouncer.
Yeah. Pain don't hurt.
Pain don't hurt. It is if you have not seen the film, it is such a fun, absurd, like, I don't like what I love about what Ebert said about it is he said, this is not a good movie, but it is so incredibly fun. And I think that's just absolutely true about this movie. And I think the one thing I wanted to say bringing this up is there's this thing with, people don't go to the movie theater as much anymore. People definitely don't go to the movie theater to see old movies as much anymore. These repertory theaters that show these screenings of old movies. And like, what I'm here to say to people generally is like, rep screenings are some of the most fun you can have at the movie theater sometimes, because like we were in this, the George R. R. Martin theater is not huge. It's a pretty small, single room theater. But like it was, and there wasn't even that many people there, but it's like everyone that's going to see Roadhouse at this theater at 4:30 on a Saturday is like there to have a fucking great time, right? Yeah. Like they are there for a specific purpose. Most of them know the movie already. I know the two of you guys hadn't seen it, but the majority of people that were there to see that movie had seen the movie before, because why would you go to see a rep screening of a film you haven't seen before unless you're Matt and Michael?
Yeah.
And so like there's just a vibe and an energy at rep screenings that like you can't beat sometimes. That it's just like you're all collectively laughing at the funny parts. You're laughing at the absurd parts. You're laughing at the the throat ripping parts. Yeah. It's just like there's nothing quite like it in the world. And like, so like some people could be listening to this and they'll go home and turn Roadhouse on their streaming service and watch it in silence by themselves on their couch and be like, it was okay.
It was all right. Yeah.
Maybe they'll enjoy a little bit. But like the reason the three of us were so high on this movie was because of the experience we had watching it, not just what we were watching.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this, by the way, I parenthetically think this is why nobody goes to see movies anymore, is that movie theaters suck now. They, like they're uncomfortable and dirty. The bathrooms smell like pee, and you just don't expect to have a fun or even comfortable time. And I think that's like part of it. But yeah, this was a very fun time. George R. R. Martin's movie theater was very nice. The employees were very nice. It had like a really cool sort of like, I don't know what the word is, lobby, I guess, leading into the theater where we kind of hung out for a bit and got our snacks. And it just seemed like everybody who worked there really enjoyed their lives and enjoyed working there, which, that's refreshing too.
Yeah.
Compared to your average movie theater experience. It was great. It was a great time. And yeah, it's something different to watch a wacky 80s movie with a crowd of people who are just there to hoot and holler with you.
Yep. Such fun. Great movie. Rest in peace, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
We lost him too young.
Yep.
What a guy. All right. I think that's going to do it for us this week, Matt. Right?
Yeah.
We're done, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking more about the trip as a whole, our trip to New Mexico and the time we spent together there over on our Patreon. So it'll be a Doof After Dark series there. So if you're all interested in hearing about that, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/doofmedia. That episode should be out soonish.
Yeah.
We haven't recorded it yet, but we will.
Yeah. All right.
Here's what I'll say though. You're probably mad at me about the Fantastic Four because I know so many people loved it. So I do want to hear what you people liked about it. And it's not because I'm like, how could people possibly enjoy this? I'm just genuinely curious. So let us know what you thought of Fantastic Four. Send us an email, doofmedia@gmail.com. Reach out to us on Twitter @doofmedia, on Instagram @doofmedia. Head over to Reddit, reddit.com/r/doofmedia. And just let us know what I'm sure a lot of you enjoyed this movie. I'm sure a lot of you agreed with Matt more than you agreed with me. So just share your thoughts. Get a conversation about this movie going, about the MCU in general. Are you excited for Doomsday? Let us know.
Yeah. If you're not already subscribed to Doofcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on all of the major podcasting platforms.
And you can head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia once again to become a member at any of our levels over there. You can help support this show and support all the shows on our network, including Belting at Windmills. That's Ruben and Elliot's journey through the Expanse series. I think they're wrapping up the first book, Leviathan Wakes, here pretty soon if they haven't done that already. So if you haven't checked out that show, please do. And you can support them on Patreon just like you can support us. And of course, you can hear that Doof After Dark about New Mexico and our adventures into a gorge.
Yes. The magical land of New Mexico.
It's true. It's a land of enchantment.
Yep, it is. Also, please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
Next week on the show, we are returning to Paul Thomas Anderson with his next film in our series, Deconstructing His Films. I believe we are on Inherent Vice, so we're going to be taking a look at the second film in which Joaquin Phoenix stars in a Paul Thomas Anderson project, Inherent Vice. So check back then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.